Маркони. Yes. All right. Let me get started. All right, so thank you all for bearing with me for that time. We wanted to give everybody a chance to get in. Thank you all for coming back this week again. We're going through our review from last week, and then the week before that, we're getting into the topic of digital assets. So digital assets are very important for us to start to delve into to see where this is all coming from and how all the currency is going to be given to us through our accounts. So I'm going to jump right into it with a lot of topics of discussion on one of the things that are going to show different evidences of what has happened for me and what is going to happen for everyone else once you go in the same path that I have. So once you go on the same path that I went in, you will know it should look similar to what things I have done and accomplished and the things that you have done and how you will accomplish it as well. So I'm going to give a diagram of some of the things that I have accomplished already. This is going to go as far back to 2018. So bear with me as I go ahead and pull up that screen. Let's see if I can go right to it. But as I find this, I just wanted to give us all continual commendation for doing this work because it is a hard I'm not gonna say it's hard, but I can say it is a work that requires focus. So you have to be focused on this on a weekly basis, or even if it's not a daily thing, if you did it just once a week, it could get you through a lot of things if you focused on maybe doing one thing a week. So we're not here to make everyone, believe that you are supposed to be doing this all day and all night. I mean, even if you can, you still may not have that much time. So I'm not going to make it where it's extremely difficult, but at the same time, it does require a lot of focus. So let me give you all this screen right here first to show and prove where we're going to start off our discussion today. And then I'll go into a lot of the information that's coming directly from our courts and directly from the treasury. All right, so this is my first diagram I'm going to use for today is the Social Security Administration. So we all have been able to go through this information for a while, this knowledge or this document. We're going to say this is a document. So by now, everyone should have this, what they call Social Security card. So I'm using this as an example. This is the new one. This is the one that most people should have now if you're here in the United States. Now, other countries may have other ways of looking at this, but we're looking at this from the perspective of the United States right now because this is where the Social Security Administration is issuing all of the credits that go onto this card. So we say this card because we're being specific. We're saying this is a card. This isn't just something that's sitting around for no reason. So I like how right here it says you are the temple. So when it says you are the temple, this is basically showing that you are the, what they call, it says your body is the temple or your account or whatever the taxes and stuff are going at. Because they talk about this in the Bible where they say the temple tax, where you're being taxed. And these are the locations where the taxes are being collected and you're able to see all the payments that have been collected on your account. So the Social Security Administration is one of the players that helps see what is going on this account, what's going on with this account. So I use this diagram right here first to show this is what everyone should have. By now, you should have this card in your hand. If you don't have this card in your hand, then by means, this week, figure out a way where you have time that you can focus and you can get this card. So even if you need to get a new card, figure out a way to get a new card. If you have an old card, find your old card. If you need to do a name correction, correct the name. Do everything there is to do so that you have full access to your account by the time we get to the next steps that will be required for you to, what we say, access your mindset of your trust. All right, so I have another diagram I'm going to show you all in just a moment. Let me see if I can get this thing to load a little faster. It's going a little slower. Here we go. So this is the next diagram I want to show you all where, at least in the state that I'm in, this is what it should look like for you. And if you're doing this, it should give you the same results. Some of us may already have this unknowingly, but if you do have this already, this is great because you may have it knowingly or unknowingly. So this is my second diagram. This is where you're going to be able to have a non-commercial vessel, or they say a vehicle, whatever way that you're actually traveling. So even in your back of your driver's license or your ID, you want to look at that card and you want to also see if that card means or it says non-commercial. So there's nothing wrong with having these identification documents. It's all about how we're using them and what format we have them in. So one of the main formats that I see is the non-commercial part that's listed on a lot of these documents. It does say non-commercial. So this is another example. So some of us may have this, and I'm in Florida, so I know this works in Florida. I'm in the capital, so I had to go into the capital and I had to get a brand new driver's license, identification card, whichever format that is. If it's a driver's license, it's going to say non-commercial vehicle because it's a driver's license. So that means when I'm driving or I'm riding or I'm traveling, whatever word I want to use, fancy word, instantly I'm non-commercial because if I connect myself to a non-commercial vessel or a vehicle, then I'm instantly non-commercial. Now, if I have this car and I'm non-commercial and I still get into a commercial vehicle, or I get into a vehicle that's registered a certain way, that I'm pretty much putting myself in a commercial capacity to be, what they say, pulled over or even ticketed. Right. So for the last 5+ years or even more, I've been pulled over by the police. I've been dealt with in many ways um, and I've never received a ticket. Right. So I've never received a ticket, never received a citation because of my status that they always say status correction. All this status correction is showing that my status is non-commercial. So you all may have this unknowingly, but you are not exercising the mind that once you have irrevocable living trust, you want to connect everything that you have as being non-commercial. Right. So the non-commercial side is the side that the revocable trust has placed you on in the beginning. So this isn't something that you want to go into where you're thinking that I can go back and I can just continually use the same things that I was already using or doing the same things that I was already doing. So I hope this helps for the identification card, or they say the driver's license. Let me go to the front. So this is the back of the card, and I'm going to show you the front. So this should show you how it looks for me. So a lot of us may have the same things, but we want to make sure they match and we feel comfortable with the things that we have already. And this will go right into what's going to happen with the court. I'll show you all how you're supposed to connect or even communicate with the court. All right, so let me see where we are. Where is, I got the front of the card. Let me go to the, wow, it's not showing me the front, so I'm not gonna. Hmm. I guess I have to go back to that again when I can see that card. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can, I'll just skip to the next one. But I do have the front. So this will be the front, and I'll go into the front. All right, here we go. I have the front right here. Now, putting this as an example for myself, because all of us have these cards in order to pretty much operate in this system or operate in this, what they call this corporation, you still need to make sure that you feel as if you are pretty much non-commercial, or you are what they call, what they say, unincorporated, or you're actually operating through your revocable trust. So I'm just going to show things that I don't think that most people have on their ID, but I have it on my identification card, and I've been living this way for maybe over close to 7 years or more. So here's the identification card right here. So the front, you'll see the front of the card is going to now have different things that you would normally not have if you're looking at yourself as commercial. So as you can see on my card and my front of my address I'm using is the 9998, which they call the private side to the post office. So the post office is included with a private post that you are able to use, even to the point, let's say you don't even have a residential location, or you don't have a house, or you don't have a place to live. If you needed to receive an identification card in the mail or a driver's license, this is one of the locations where you were able to receive that. So there was never a need for you to use your mother's address or your father's address, or even use a cousin's address or a friend's address real quick, right? We've always had access to the post office. So the post office is what I used when I didn't have access to no address. And lo and behold, I was able to receive this this card at the what they call the tax collector's office. Right. So the tax collector's office is the beginning, right? So you cannot get through, you can't even get to the taxes unless you went through the tax collector. So the tax collector seems like a new character, but the tax collectors has been around for ages. They've been around for a very long time, a tax collector. By the way, you should know the name of your tax collector that's in your area or your county or your city, wherever you are. So there are tax collectors, right? So this is how I was able to get this card because I had to go through the tax collector to even get this card. So for those who are still against the identification card or the driver's license because we've been sold the private way, even the nationality of being, a different nationality, which is fine. It still doesn't omit the usage of this card. And we're getting more detail to see how we've already had everything. We've always had everything prepaid, but a lot of us are still trying to get money for things that we had already got paid for. It's almost like, say, I still need $25 to go grab something, but it's already, they had already paid it, but I'm still asking for more money. So I just want to keep it clear of how this is going to look and how this will all look for us as we're navigating through these offices. Yes, go ahead. We got hand raised, Sister Cynthia.
Hey Wallace, so I upload the back of mine, but that's the regular driver's license. So you're saying that it will, once we update the ID, it's going to change? Am I understanding that right or no?
Yeah, according to my situation, this is the front of mine. So I showed the back
Yeah.
first, right?
Mm-hmm.
According to me, the way I updated it, it showed that I became non-commercial. Right. So once it's non-commercial, this is now moving you to the non-commercial side whenever I use this ID or even driver,
Uh-huh.
right? So I'm showing this is a true driver's license. This is real, like they say, the real ID. They put the little star at the top to determine if you're,
Mm-hmm.
you gave all the documents. So yeah, this is proving space that this is real. Right. Now I'll get into more diagrams to prove how once I got through the tax collector's office and I updated my identity, now I was able to receive that treasury check. So I'm going to give y'all the meat, give y'all the end of the
Okay.
story first, and then I'll go into the details of how I got to the end of the story. So yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
that
All
makes sense.
right.
You will need to do the same thing as update your ID or your driver's license at the tax collector's office, right?
Right. Okay.
See, we call that the DMV, just to kind of not just to segue and go into a different aspect. So a lot of us call this the DMV. Me, I don't see it as the DMV no more. It's the tax collector's office, right? So this is new to us, but this is how this is supposed to look when we go to these offices. So the tax collector's office is how I was able to receive this card, right? Any questions so far? Go ahead, brother Rudy.
How everybody doing tonight? So when you say update, right? is there's a process of update that you didn't get to yet, you about to go into it.
No, I'm showing you how I did everything already, how this is my end results of what happened for me. And I'm just showing all the paths that the path that everyone has to go through to get to the same results.
So the revocable living trust being on the county record, right? You go into the DMV and the wording is I would like to update my driver's license to the non-commercial side.
No, there is no wording. That's why I was saying to us at a certain point, it becomes a program. You have to code this. There's a code. You actually, you're typing in the addresses, right? Remember, I said I had no address. I had nowhere. Like I said, I couldn't use my mama address. I can't use my dad address, right?
Right.
So what address I'm gonna use?
There's 9998.
Right, but where is that?
Let's say Tallahassee on the driver's license right here.
Correct. What I'm saying is the post. It's the post.
The post office, right? Got you.
So if I have no address, I can pick it up at the post office.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is helping those who are out there because some things they may try to make you believe that you are private, but in reality, you don't have to do all that to prove you private. All right. So if I'm private, I'm private. Or if I'm non-commercial, I'm non-commercial, right?
So we supposed to be updating the address to the post office to be non-commercial.
Well, at a certain point. I mean, I had to do that at a certain point, and mine expires in 2025, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna have to update again.
So is that something that come with a some type of exorbitant fee, like a more than $50, like something irregular? Is that the $450 thing?
No, no, what's happening is that there's people that have not done this part where they haven't talked to their tax collector because you can't even get this. Remember, you can't even get the which I'm going to go into the next diagram. You can't get the IRS a check if you don't have an address that's verified, right? Because we
Right.
may have a whole bunch of old addresses that the IRS or the treasuries are looking at, right? So I'm going to get into that to prove why the tax collector is first um to even get to the treasury. Because a lot of people have abandoned the tax collector's office or the DMV. And we're using passports now. Now we're trying to use the passport, or we're trying to use a foreign identity and all these different foreign things, right? But they're clearly telling you that we have to prove that you're a real ID, right? That's why you see that star on the right. They did that in Florida first. So Florida don't play. They make it sure that you are real. So that answers the question. I'm just saying this is what it looks like once you have executed the revocable trust. We're all supposed to think of ourselves as non-commercial.
Right. So because people take stuff personal when you walk up there and you don't say the typical things. So I'm just trying to understand that I'm just updating to my local post office address that should come with this class E classification and change, right? Just
Well, it could already say that. That's what I said. You could unknowingly already have this Class E non-commercial vehicle connection, right? So I need to put myself in a non-commercial vehicle also. So I can't just have this card, but then I go into a commercial vehicle. Does that make sense? Or I'm still registering the tag in the commercial corporation.
right.
Right. So this is where I get people at. That's what I'm going to explain. But this has nothing to do with the vehicles yet. I'm just showing y'all that most of the time we go to the DMV and we focus on driving. Right. We don't be thinking about the tax collector. Now, that's the last thing we think about. That's why I said the identification card and the driver's license.
Boy, just know my thing say this thing right here.
Okay, it says the same on the back of yours, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you're in that classification. You're in the non-commercial classification,
Okay.
right?
That's right. That's what it say. Shit.
Now is to keep it that way, you must also include a non-commercial vehicle. So that means you need to make your vehicles non-commercial also.
Okay, now what does that look like? That's just going to them and allowing them to see that it need to be non-commercial.
Well, no, I'm not going to go into the details of how that looks, but I'm
Okay,
just
okay.
yeah,
Okay,
you
okay.
you connect this card to a non-commercial vehicle, which means that you should connect this to a revocable trust or a trust other, the way we have explained it, or an estate. Some people have the estate vehicles,
Right.
so I'm just explaining that that tag or that title or that registration needs to be non-commercial.
Right.
So this is the part that a lot of us, even if y'all have people that's teaching you outside of us, we're not here to make it seem that it's not any other ways, but there are other ways. But the main thing is making sure that your vehicle or the automobile that you're traveling in does not have it connected to your social. All right. So I'm keeping it very straightforward. You do not want your vehicle, your automobile, or the thing that or the vessel you travel in to be a corporation. Right.
Mhm, mhm.
So I get it. There are people that's out there getting the vehicles in the LLCs. You know what I mean? And it's true. The vehicle can be in the LLC, but eventually we need to move it out of that LLC into a trust. Right. So then the tag or the title, everything could be in the trust. All right, so I'm going to show y'all the next diagram of how I got to this. So as you can see, this is the end. This is the end result. This is what everybody's looking to get to. All right, and to keep in mind, this is to the revocable living trust and is matching the address that's on the identification card. And you see the date, it's 2019. So this happened in April 25th, 2019. It shows how far back this had occurred from that date. So you can see this the name of the revocable trust that I've been showing you all in multiple diagrams. Then I'll go back to the revocable trust. Let me see if I can give y'all the revocable trust that pops up right here. All right, so the revocable living trust is the one I recorded on the county record, right? I remember that. So if we recorded on the county record, it's a lot easier for you to maneuver, I would say, that way. Let me go to mine. Still go to mine easier this way. All right, so that goes here, and it should go to digital folder. And I should be able to go to my trust here. Let me see. Here we go, revocable living trust. And it's on the county. So this is the one that I have on the county, right? So this is proving space in case they try to say, well, how are you going to cash this check, Mr. Temple, or how are you the trustee of this trust? This is proving that I'm the trustee of the trust because I'm able to, you know, basically show the same thing that you all see on this. Let me go to this other diagram. You see the same name, the same information, right? So if this is on the check of the treasury, right? This is the treasury check. Then this has to match what's also on the county. So this is how you're able to access the treasury because the treasury checks are supposed to match the name that you have in the trust. So then they can't contest you because the contesting is that we're trying to go through our banks so much. Like you don't need a bank. You notice that I did not mention a bank account, right? How did I mention a bank? And I'm just using the ID, right? I just used the ID and I used the tax, the tax collector office got me the ID. I used a social card. I showed that too. So I got the social card, I got the ID, and boom, I jumped right to the treasury check. So tell me why the bank is always put in the order as if this is the way that you're going to get access to the funds. There's no bank yet. If anything, the bank is next because I got the funds. Go ahead, brother.
When you showed the social security card in the beginning, well, did it say noble private lender on it?
Well, no, I mean, this is the name of my revocable trust.
Right, right. So when you say the name have to match, well, the Wallace Temple with the okay, I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. I got
you see,
I
because look,
got you.
you see on the bottom, because that name on the ID
Mm-hmm.
has to cash the check. How is the check going to get cashed?
Right.
Right? Who can, I don't need the bank is what I'm trying to explain
Mm-hmm.
because my name is on the check. I can go and cash the check without the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just proving this to prove that a lot of us were still thinking that you need the bank. And I just only jumped to you. I showed you in the beginning what you are.
Mm-hmm.
You are this, you are the temple. You are the, where the taxes are held. They call it the temple tax. So the Social Security Administration is collecting all the taxes for you. And you got your social cards. That's why I tell people to grab your social card. Where's your social security card at? Or do you actually have it? Or do we always just give people our social security number over the phone?
Mm-hmm.
As we'll get into later, how we're giving power of attorney, even if you give them the last 4 digits of the social. Okay. So their goal is to get you to give them the last 4 digits or the full social. Because once you do this, you give them power, right? You give them power just as an attorney, right? They call it power of attorney on certain documents. So this is the highest level right here, where all the money's at. Everybody's been saying, where the money at? Well, guess what? You are the money. You've been the money the whole time. All of us who are here. And we keep trying to go to the bank to get the money. We keep trying to go to to McDonald's or to the corporations that got all this big. They got the money from you. All of them. So this is why it's very important for us to do our accounting on a yearly basis, because once we do this accounting, we can see how much money we had coming in. And whatever we had coming in also had to be going out for us to pay our bills. So I wanted to make this a clear example of where we started this. The Social Security Administration is where you start if you're going to enter into this corporation, because if you don't have no money, then you can't do nothing. All right, so I went right from this and I went to the commercial card. Showed y'all this example. So this is my back of my card. I'm non-commercial. So they gave me the hint. Then I jumped from there. Then I went to the front. This is where my address and all this stuff is at. You know, where's my address? It's at the post office for right now because I don't have a residence. Like I don't own land yet. I don't have land that's in my name. I don't have a permanent address. I'll say that because some documents they ask y'all, what is your permanent address? So if you can't say you have a permanent address, then where's your address? What's your location then? All right. Anybody got any thoughts to this part? Because it's very in key point to where you begin at the tax collector's office. So the tax collector is where most of y'all got y'all cards from. This card right here. All right. So I have my card, and then when I gave me my card at the tax collector's office, the IRS system was able to pull up my information, and they connected it to the revocable trust. And boom, I was able to file that tax return, because remember, it's a tax return. I'm returning the taxes, right? But this time they're returning on the trust, the revocable trust, because you know I'm getting all this stuff out of me, out of my name, and moving it over to the revocable trust. So it has to come back as a treasury check. So I'm just showing this to prove to y'all that this is the walk that you have to do to get to this point, because the treasury check is really the whole goal if you're going to be operating in this corporation, right? I didn't say go out there and get credit cards, because that is creating debt. That's creating debt for you, right? We didn't say get out there and go grab, you know, a whole bunch of LLCs so that you can grab some houses and some cars, but then now you're in debt, owing all these houses and cars, right? We got to get your treasury checks. Now get the treasury check first. Once the treasury check comes in, you hold that as a holding, and you figure out a way to barter and exchange the treasury check. Any questions or thoughts on this so far? Because this is really where this is starting. This is not the middle or the end yet. So I'm nowhere near the middle or the end yet. Go ahead, Sister Sandra.
Yes, I have some thoughts. You were asking about the address, and that's coincidental because it's the issue I'm dealing with right now. The post office wants to get an address on me. And I don't know what to give them, because I have to realize this is going on air. So because the address that's on my driver's license is for a how do I I'm on air, so I'm trying. Anyway, the address on my driver's license is, I guess they've discovered it's not a residence where a person could live.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's a popular place that people know about. Anyway, that's what my address is on my driver's license. Well, apparently, the IRS and the post office know this, and they want an address from me, because when I've been doing my returns, I've been leaving off the zip code. I've been writing the full state instead of, the two abbreviations. So now the post office sent me a letter just the other day, a few days ago, asking me to come and identify myself with legal documentation, two pieces of legal documentation, and one of them can be a driver's license, but the other one has to be something that indicates my residence. And I don't know what to do because I don't want to do that.
Correct. Yeah. So this is why I'm going over this in details today and making sure we know once you go to the tax collector, this is where, you're putting that information. So that information needs to be pretty much on your card. So you will have to go back to the tax collector and update that again, right? So let's say they want to identify you. They want to match your identity with your location, and you need to have an address. That's how they're going to ask you.
But I really don't want to give out my personal address to anybody.
Well, it's not a personal thing. This is why, it gets to a point where everything has to be like I just gave you all my examples, so I can't say and tell you what to do, but I only can show you what it looks like whenever they ask you to go to the addresses, right? So, and we got Brother Rudy right after that. I'm gonna let you get question, Brother Rudy. So here we go. Find USPS. So you're supposed to find your post office location. So I don't know what's your nearest location, but this is how I found mine. So I'm showing you all where my address or location was. So let me go and type in this. All right. So as you can see, it does match the same information right here, right? And I was able to use that and the IRS accepted it. All right. So I just went over this. This just showed and proved the same address, right? Right. So all of us, we're saying that we don't know where we at. When we tell the IRS or the Treasury we don't know where we at, then they don't know where you at. They're like, hey, we don't know where to send your check. That's really how they're breaking this down to us. We got funds for you, but we don't know where you want us to send them. That makes sense to us. So we got to get to the point where we have to feel confident in receiving these funds too, so that we can know where they need to send it. So I showed y'all where I got my first check. I didn't get it there all the time. I got it there, once, but then I always can update the address of where I needed them to send the next funding or as well. Go ahead, Brother Rudy.
Okay, so I kind of forgot how I was gonna say it, but I'm gonna try to put it together, not to waste time. But as far as the driver's license, the public documentation, right, with at the clerk, the driver's license. So now with the upcoming taxes for a person, they got the county clerk updated. They have the license updated, like you said, with the non-commercial, right? So in that position, a person in that position, they ready to do the taxes to receive that check now?
I mean, it's not that you're not always ready to receive the check. It's just that look how non-commercial I am the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm. That's all I'm.
That's the non-commercial status, that full non-commercial status.
Correct. Like being fully non-commercial without the bank, without the corporation, without
Mm-hmm.
United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really what we're seeking. If you want to live without the United States.
Is another term for non-commercial, can we say off-grid?
Well, I don't like to say off grid because off grid gives you that whole effect of, you're out in the middle of the woods somewhere. You got no electricity. I mean, I'm living off the grid right now in a way, I guess, because I'm not technically on the commercial grid. I still got the same things that y'all have. I still have utilities, right? I still have, a location for the business. But look, this is my tax collector right here. So where's your tax collector, you all? Do y'all even know who your tax collector is? This goes back to we're not going to get to the clerk yet because I'm just showing y'all how you can't get to these characters or these bosses. I'm going to start calling them bosses. It's like a video game because you got to make sure you've mastered those layers. So you have the Social Security Administration office, right? We talked about making sure we have that card.
Right.
Now you got to get your tax collector card. Okay.
Right.
And that's what this is right here. That's where we get this card from.
A tax collector card is what exactly? I see it, but I think that's the first time hearing a tax collector card.
I know I just made it up, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it seems like I did, right? I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'm reading their website, right?
Right.
What do the tax collector card do? What do they give you? What cards do they give you? Well, here you go. It looks like the tax collector gives you the motor vehicle card, driver's license ID,
Okay. Okay.
your hunting fishing card. Oh,
Okay.
it leads you to the birth certificates too.
Mm-hmm.
It leads you to the boats and vessels, the concealed weapon card. Right. So all my people who out here, you're doing security, you just want to have a concealed weapon. Guess what? You got to get that card from your tax collector. Okay. Yeah, this is the tax collector. I know they sound different, but I'm just giving y'all how it looks in your location, your county. They may call them a different person. They may use a different word than tax. Any comments or questions on the tax collector card? All right, so let's keep going forward from how it looks for the tax collector. Went into your address, your location. Let's say you don't have an office. Well, these people already paid for y'all an office. They got offices everywhere. And they call them the post office. So all my people who've been paying for offices, we've been telling you the route is through the trust. So you want to use your trust and you want to use the offices that are already given to you. So that answers that question for what do I need to use as an address? Where do I need to put this? I'm about to be evicted. I don't have no spot to stay right now. What address do I give them, Wallace? Well, I just gave y'all the answers. Like find your nearest post. I don't know where that's at. That's up to y'all.
So with my license, I just looked at it and I see that I have the non-commercial and stuff. Is it necessary to update my address, or I'm already good with that status?
Well, I mean, your location or where you at is your business address now.
Okay.
Then we get into the sole proprietor, how that's a sole proprietor address. Let's keep going to the meat of why I'm bringing all this up. Let's go right into where all this is coming from and why you have to have this ready before y'all get to the clerk. Because the clerk is your highest office really to your funding, your clerk. So this is why you need to get this on the county record. This is why it needs to be recorded in the public records. Okay. Very important that you are publicated with your revocable living trust. And this isn't even giving all the power just because you put it on the record. We got to do more work after you get it on the record. So let's go to today. I'm showing y'all where today all this knowledge is coming from and where they are telling you that you're supposed to have already known this information. And I'll go through and help you all out today for some of the notes that I was able to take. All right. Here we go. Here it goes. It says that these are our final exam review, community civics every Sunday, 5:45. So this will be our final exam review for the year. So everything that we talked about this year, we want you all to be able to have taken this into notes and taken good key terms or anything that we may have or discuss today. Hold on 1 second. Hold that thought. Give me about 15 seconds. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'll go through our first part of our notes. This is going to be our final exam. So if you all need to take notes or you need to get a pen or a paper or you need to type this up, feel free. Very important for you all. Continuing from your journey, and this is just on the most basic level after you have got your revocable living trust on the county record, right? So this is the beginning of everything. This isn't everything, right? That will be the beginning. Even the treasury check. The treasury check will be the beginning, right? So you just started the game. You got the treasury check. Well, some of us may not have got the treasury check yet. You got your revocable trust. You got it on the county. Your next step is to get the treasury check, right? Once you get your treasury check, then you are ready to play. And I'm not talking about the treasury check on the 1040 side. I'm speaking of the treasury check on the 1041. That means that you've proven on at least one of your 1041s or any of your 1041s that you have received a treasury check. Now, I'm saying this very specifically because this makes it very plain and knowing that you're on the non-commercial side and all your funding and all your money and all your cash and all your credit is supposed to come from the non-commercial credit. Now, I'm not saying everybody's doing this because we even got multimillionaires that are not even doing this, right? We got people that are just able to manage $1 billion of assets, but they're still not able to do this yet because they're working on themselves, right? This is what this is. This is us working on ourselves. This is our final exam review for us. This has nothing to do with trying to show everybody else how to do stuff when we are still trying to show ourselves. Right. So this is really the nitty gritty. I'm giving y'all the full answers today. It's coming straight from the United States government and how they want you to understand it. And they've given you all full disclosure. So this is understanding federal courts. I'll be talking about this today and I'll be going through this very fast because I want you all to jump and understand how they already want you to know and understand and overstand this information already. So my link and my source where I'm getting this from, I'll give that all to you today. So you have access to this PDF. And I want you all to be able to study this same information as well. So check the chat. You will receive that. I will also put that in the chat on YouTube as well on the description. So page 14 is where I'm getting this information from. So I'm going to take you all to page 14. But let's go to the title of the book first. I gave you all the main title of the book, and this is coming from Understanding the Federal Courts. So this is the highest of understanding that they have in their entire corporation is they want you to all understand the federal courts and how all those things are put in place and how those things operate. So let's skip to page 25. I'm sorry, what is it? Page 14. And we're going to first visit the first notes that I have put here today. And the first notes we have is page 14 is going to talk to you about the adversarial system. Right? So the adversarial system, this entire system that we're in is an adversarial system. No matter what you think, wherever office, doesn't matter if it's a store, a small business, all the way down to the smallest business you can think. They call them owner operators, one guy, one woman businesses. All of them have been incorporated into an adversarial system, according to the federal courts. So let's read what it is. What does it mean to be in your adversarial system and why, by staying and remaining the same way that we are continuing in the same mindsets of the adversarial system? It says the work of collecting evidence and preparing to present it to the court is accomplished by the litigants and their attorneys, normally without assistance from the court. So there we go. So that's why when y'all go to the clerk of courts or y'all go to these courthouses or y'all go to all these people and these officials that are getting paid, they expect you to have already had all your presentments, all your evidence together without their assistance. Okay, so I'm showing you this is where they're saying, and I'm quoting word for word, quote, quote. It says the entire system of the United States and all jurisdictions rely totally upon evidence presented before the court. That's right. So anything that y'all want to see as fact or proving space, right? If you didn't place it on a county record or you did not create a case number, there is no way that you can substantiate or prove anything you're saying. So the entire system of the United States and all jurisdictions rely totally upon evidence presented before the court. Right. So this is why we say place the revocable trust on the county record, because this is now presented before the court. This is why we say open up that court case if you can't get it on the county record. Then open up that small claims case. Right. Figure out a way. Make a way to figure out why you should have already opened up that small claims case, because you are in an adversarial system. This may mean not just a simple filing or record is enough. That means, hey, I already put it on the record, Wallace. I already filed it. That's not enough. They want you to do a little bit more than just file it. And they'll sell y'all packages saying, here, buy our package. We'll put it on file. And this should dismiss the case. The presentation of the record is required as well to the court to prove without assistance from the court. There you go. Did they not just tell y'all they don't want to give you assistance? So they want you to prove it to us that you know what you filed. So it's almost like you read the same thing that you filed that you put on the record. So they're not going to read it. So all the people, all those years who thought that just filing it on the record and just filing it on the court case, that these people read it, they didn't read not a single document. Whoever those people we thought was reading your documents. Right. So the entire system depends on you presenting what you got and what you placed on the record. Power of attorney. This is the POA. Right. One of our hardest courses that we are still dealing with. We only have about we have less than the percentage rate is very low with everyone passing through those courses. So the POA is what allows any works brought before the court as presented. Okay. So that means that even if y'all are communicating with corporations, big time businesses, small businesses, and even the court, the only thing that communicates with these people in this corporation is a power of attorney. So we taught that to all our people taking our POA courses, that your first communication document tool is the POA document. This can prove that you have power of attorney and that you are in the power of attorney position. Because you're supposed to remain non-commercial and remain as a trustee of your revocable trust. So this is the adversarial system, you all. So everything that y'all do, y'all trying to act like it's all like they actually are trying to do you a favor. They're not trying to do you a favor, right? Nobody's doing you a favor in the adversarial system. So everything has to be presented. It has to be proven, right? So that's where we see that the system is telling you what they're saying. So once we learn the system, then it'll be easier for us to maneuver around the system or accept the way the system is running. So I'm not going to read through all this, but I'll just read one paragraph for you where this is coming from: an adversarial system. So everything that you've ever dealt with, we're not going to get into the criminal side yet, but we're just proving to you how the entire time they have had y'all in adversarial position. The litigation process in U.S. courts is referred to as an adversarial system because it relies on the litigants to present their dispute before a neutral fact finder. That's right. So we got to present our stuff before the court, which is that neutral fact finder. According to the American legal tradition, inherited from the English common law, the clash of adversaries before the court is most likely to allow the jury or judge to determine the truth and resolve the dispute at hand. In some other legal systems, judges or other court officials investigate and assist the parties to find relevant evidence or obtain testimony from witnesses. In the United States, the work of collecting evidence and preparing to present it to the court is accomplished by the litigants and their attorneys, normally without assistance from the court. So here we go. So this is coming straight out of page 14 of your federal judicial process in a brief setting. All right, so if anybody have any thoughts, questions, or shares on the adversarial system, this is where we begin once you have started, right? It's just the start. And you have, yes, you have your documents, your trust document or your trust instrument, and now you're maneuvering through this adversarial system. All right, so let's go to our next part, and that's going to be coming from page 25. This is the individual courts. So if you all are following along, I'm reading from Understanding Federal Courts. And you can see now this is page 14. We're going to go to page 25. So page 25 is individual courts. Let me go to that for us right here first, page 25. All right, so this is coming from page 25, Federal Judicial Administration. So this is very, very, very important because this is going to get you all the answer that we wanted you all to hear and see. You know, you're going to have eyes to see and ears to hear where this is coming from, because this is, they can't deny this in any state that you're in. I don't care where you are, whatever jurisdiction there is, this is your ultimate guide and answer book. So let's go to some of the answers I summarized for you all today. So page 25, the individual courts. So the individual courts, in an example, is going to be where you are, your county court, your regular old local court. Those are considered individual courts. The day-to-day responsibility for judicial administration rests with each individual court. Each court is given responsibility by statute and administrative practice to appoint support staff, supervise spending, and manage the court's records. So there you go. So all that is already being paid and managed. The staff, the spending, and the records. The main two positions of every court rest in the power of the oh, here we go. Let's go to the first one. I want to go through this very slow because we got the main two positions of every court rest in the power of the number one chief judge. All right. So this is our first character I wanted to unveil for you all today as your chief judge. All right. Very important that we know today, whoever that is, wherever you are, you need to learn who the chief judge is in your area. Now, let me go to some of the comments. I think I'm seeing some comments that are in the feed. Let's see where we are so far. All right, so we see what the DMV is a third party to the tax collector. That is correct. That is absolutely right. Yep, the DMV, they play pretty much a servicer. So they just it's almost like it's a DBA. It's like it's a DBA, but it's the tax collector. The tax collector is really the main person that is appointing all those positions in that office. So that is very important for us to know today, that office that we went to the whole time is the tax collector's office. So that's where this is starting at with the ID card. So I went over that comment and the change of address. And then we also see where you got the adversary. There we go. That's right. In Hebrew, the word adversary, yes, means Satan. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. So for you all who haven't ever heard of that before, it could mean that if I translate it, it would sound like I'm speaking of a Satan system. That's what it would mean in Hebrew. It would mean adversarial system. So let's go back into this. So we'll get into that. That's more of our definitions. But since we already know this is happening to us, I'm just jumping right in to prove to you all where this is all happening from. It's all happening from us not understanding what they say, understanding the federal courts. So let's go back to where the federal courts are being explained and who are in charge of these federal courts and why we must know these characters of these individual courts. So the first character that we have right here is the chief judge. All right. So how many of y'all today known today that the chief judge is the main person that's running that courthouse? Right? Who is running the courthouse is what you're supposed to find out. Who is running the courthouse? Today, now you know the chief judge is one of them. The second person is the clerk of court. There we go. So that's our second person today, the clerk of court. Now we're starting to get somewhere. We're starting to see why in all areas, these are your key characters to where you need to see how to communicate and how to deal with your funds. And I'll get into that in just a few of how the communication and how the funds are managed and administered by these individuals. Right here. So the clerk of court is hired by the judges of the court. So that means the chief judge brings in more judges, or they're all being hired or appointed, and they're going to appoint a clerk of court. And they appoint the clerk of court to carry out the court's administrative functions. So that is the job of the clerk of court, to carry out the court's administrative functions. The clerk's many functions include they're going to maintain the records of dockets of the court. That's one of our main things. We always ask for a docket report. If you all have never heard of that, if you ever need to know what's going on in any court case, you go to the court clerk and you say, hey, I need a docket report. Can I get a docket report? I don't care what's going on. The clerk will give you something called a docket report. Next, managing the court's information technology systems. So there we go. That's going to get into how the system is digital. So the system has been digital for a very long time, and they're just releasing this to the public. Right? So the public doesn't know that the clerk is using the digital aspect in the background, but at the same time, the public is still using the physical aspect most of the time, which they call it hand-in-hand paperwork. Next, the clerk deals with paying all fees, fines, costs, and other monies collected into the U.S. Treasury. There you go. I bet y'all didn't know that. That's right. The clerk is the one that's collecting all the money and placing it directly with the U.S. Treasury. So this is where the U.S. Treasury is coming in, where you all can see on page 25 why the clerk of court is hired to communicate for you to the United States Treasury. Here you go, right here. It says paying all fees, fines, costs, and other monies collected into the what? Let me scroll in for y'all because some of y'all may not be able to see it. Let me go ahead in 125%. What does that say right here? The U.S. Treasury. Right, so that overshadows anybody telling us that the IRS forms don't work at the courthouse. That completely shuts that down. And I'll prove to you all how you've been giving the form to the wrong person. You know, you don't want to be thinking that you're finna, try to take the court to court. You can't take the court to court. That doesn't make any sense. And the IRS is going to prove to you all today and show you how you're not supposed to be making those 1099s to the clerk. So the next thing the clerk does is ministering the court's jury system. So the jury system that you see, they're hiring people or they're finding people in your community to come and play the juror. They're providing interpreters and court reporters, sending official court notices and summons. So these are the summons people. They send the notices, like notice of this, notice of that, and the summons. So they're already paid. So they're getting paid to do this, and they're getting paid out of our accounts, which we'll go into later. I'll show you proving that how they're being paid from our taxes. They also provide courtroom support services. So you can see all these are the functions of the clerk. And the clerk is the one that's appointed by the chief judge, because the chief judge is they're going into a voting perspective of who they can vote in as the clerk of court. This is why you see the clerk of court is a official officer that's voted in. So that's my notes right here for you all to see where the clerk of court is hired. You know, it's a very important position that we see is the clerk of court. Let's get more into it. So the IRS is the service company for the U.S. Treasury. That's right. So every time you hear the U.S. Treasury, you know immediately the IRS is going to be brought in, because the U.S. Treasury just sends the IRS to do the collections. They call them the accountant or the collector as well. So they're like the tax collector for the government, the IRS. So the tax collectors are going to communicate with each other. But for this specific reason, we see the clerk communicating with the Treasury. So we're going to see the IRS is the service company for the U.S. Treasury. This gives direct communication with the IRS to be with the clerks of courts of every county, district, etc. So all the people that we've been thinking that are dealing with the Treasury, the one who deals with the Treasury the best is the clerk of court. Now, the next question is going to go into another part of the segment I want to go into to show you what the IRS is talking about. Now, hopefully I'll be able to get through a lot of this information today. For whatever reason, we'll continue into next week, and I'll go into the digital assets and how all the digital documents that are being held are now considered digital assets. So is a county clerk required to issue or respond to a 1099 document sent to them? Right, so it's a very good question. We've seen over the years, we've had sovereign citizenship. We've had all different people that have claimed to be American nationals. We've had people that had nationality changes, corrections of status, being connected to the Moorish Empire, all types of things, right? And we find that this question is always asked, is a county clerk required to issue or respond to a 1099 document sent to them? And the short answer after our research and discovery is no. Now, this may be a shocker to us, is the answer is no. So the clerk does not have to respond or give you a 1099. I know this may be a shocker for us, but I'll prove to you all today where this is coming from and how this has already been addressed on a finality level going back to 2015. So yes, the clerk is not responsible for the taxes of filing on your behalf, of giving you anything regarding your case. And so it's in your hands to do this for all of your cases, for all of your stuff, and the clerk is not going to do it. Let's keep going into the answer of why. The clerk will only be seen as the middleman where the funds are being ordered and collected for another party. So there we go. So all those funds that we think is going to the clerk, technically in the background is actually going to another party. So this is why the clerk wouldn't be responsible for giving you all those 1099s. So hence why we always say file your taxes on all the money you had going out, right? Because we already know that all the expenses should match how much money you have to have coming in. Right? So focus on what you have going out rather than focus on what you think that you got coming in. All right, so this is where the clerk was summoned. All right, here, so this is how they get us. So the clerk is the one that created this position of power that enforces it, right? So we're thinking that it's the judge, and I'm showing you all today improving space of the clerk that you all are thinking is the nice lady that's behind the desk. Oh yeah, that nice lady behind the desk is doing some power moves. You know, it don't matter if she's 80 years old. That's correct. That same old clerk. All right, so this is where the clerk will summon a bailiff or a sheriff to execute the orders. That's right. So all the orders that we get signed by the judges or the judges that we just went over, the chief judge who appoints all his other judges that we all see most of the time. We're more concerned with the judges, right? We see them a lot. They're the judges. But we don't know about the chief judge. But the chief judge is the one that's given those judges the authority to sign those orders. Right. So once those orders are signed and there's monetary value behind those orders, well, the clerk is going to get that order, right? Because that's their job. And once the clerk gets that order, who do you think the clerk is going to give that order to? Oh, they're instantly going to give it to the bailiff or the sheriff. Because they're not going to wait to see if you're going to deal with that order. They're just going to go jump right into the process of making sure the order is taken care of. So this is where you all get to the sheriff and the bailiff and all these different orders that are being processed and enforced through what we call this county clerk or just a clerk in general. So the 1099 is to always be issued to the debtor or recipient. So for you all didn't know that you're going after the wrong people, you're not supposed to be going after the state, right? You need to go after the recipient. Who is the recipient that the state is representing, right? Who is receiving the funding? Okay. Now, let's say the state is playing the victim. Okay. Well, guess what? You still need to figure out a way to make sure that you're not focusing on the clerk. So the tax return isn't coming from the clerk. The 1099 is not going to the clerk. So you need to find out who it is that you're going to be filing this 1099 form to receive or to give to the debtor or recipient. This is where it gets very complicated because almost all our processes are dealing with the courthouse. Almost everything, all your property. And I'll get into this a little later to show you how the digital assets have been already digitized by these courts. These courts have digitized things as far back as 2000, I think going back to 2008, 2007. So they're ahead of the game at least 10 years or more. So it's going to a publication to prove to you all where the memorandum proves and says that the county clerk could not perform those managements or oversight functions. So I'm going to read this first part of the memorandum, then I'll go right into the county clerk's link. So it says a county clerk of the court has no discretion in making the payments. We conclude that county clerks of court do not perform management or oversight functions with respect to these payments, as they are merely performing their administrative and ministerial duties. Okay. So this is where the clerk of court or the county clerks, they are seeing all your money, all the money that's being done in all the processes, but they aren't the ones that are keeping the money. They're just performing their duties. So this will help out a lot of y'all where y'all keep going after the judge and going after the officers and even the clerk, where you should be going after the person who's the debtor or the recipient, like who is receiving all that payment, all those funds. But y'all not going after those. Y'all going after the police. Y'all going after the sheriff. Y'all going after the judge, right? And we just went over their position. Right? We don't get into all that. What's their oath of office and all this stuff. Like the oath of office doesn't matter when it comes down to, when it breaks down to who received that payment. All right, someone say, well, the judge let it go through. He gave the order. Well, the question is, if the order went through, then who got the order? It's always the recipient or the debtor, right? The debtor is the one who's always asking for the money. That's what we found out a long time ago. Or the borrower, right? The borrower becomes a debtor, and a debtor becomes a recipient. So we just use two words, debtor or recipient. So we can prove this today, and I'm going to go right into the IRS because this is where it gets even more directly showing you the direct connection that they have with the clerk. All right, as you can see, this memorandum is coming from the Office of the Chief Counsel, Internal Revenue Service memorandum, and this was released on August 14th, 2015. And you can see that this is recent, but not that recent. This is close to 10 years ago. Now, I'm not going to read through this whole thing. I'm just giving you all where this, let me go ahead and give you a access point to this as well. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat so you all can see this link. Give me a second. Give me just a moment. Okay. We got. Oh, here we go, right here. All right. So this is the memorandum, the Office of Chief Counsel, Internal Revenue Service. And this is going right into the 1099s. So this is the answer to where the 1099s are supposed to go. Let's say you have, and you're dealing with the taxes for your whatever situation you may be with court, or it may be dealing with a court case. It could be any case, right? So let's go right into where the clerk of court functions. So they're actually naming word for word the clerk of court. So the 1099 requirement and deposit refunds garnishment. So remember, the clerk of court is the one that is communicating with the treasury to even garnish your paycheck. So these garnishments of your paychecks, or they call it a treasury offset program, which I'll get into in just a moment to prove to you how these orders can't go through without the clerk of court. The memorandum responds to your request for assistance. This advice may not be used or cited as precedents. The issues: whether a county clerk of court is required to issue a Form 1099 to an attorney when the court sends a debtor's garnished funds to a creditor's attorney, or to an attorney where the attorney is the creditor. Where a county clerk of court is required to issue a Form 1099 to an attorney who has refunded their client's money at the end of a case. Whether a county clerk of court is required to issue a Form 1099 proceeds from real estate transactions on foreclosure real estate transactions. So these are the questions you see right here, directly answered by the Internal Revenue Service, which is the Office of Chief Counsel of the Internal Revenue Service. So this is the direct answer or source from the IRS, or the Internal Revenue Service. We're going to just say the Treasury. So the conclusions came is, and a county clerk is not required to issue a Form 1099. So there we go. So that destroys all of the answers that we've been told or sold before about the county clerk giving you a 1099, or even us giving the county clerk a 1099. The county clerk doesn't deal with the 1099s. A county clerk is not required to issue a Form 1099 to an attorney who has refunded their client's money at the end of the case. So that means the county clerk has nothing to do with that attorney that received that money at the end of that court case. Because remember, the attorney is the one that's pretty much taking y'all to the court, right? but for some reason you all keep thinking it's the state. But you should be asking, who is the attorney that's representing the state? So we'll get into these details to how these cases are always been the same. They have never changed. It's the same. Next, number 3, a county clerk is not required to issue a Form 1099-S proceeds from real estate transactions on foreclosures, real estate transactions. So that means even the foreclosure cases, these attorneys create and make for property, right? So it's your job to basically make sure that you issue those 1099s. Now, the clerk of court is not required to do that 1099. As you can see, this is coming right from the IRS or the treasury. They're saying that that's not going to happen with the court. So the court is not able to do any of those, or they're not going to do any of those actions for you. Now, they go into more details to prove to you how this looks for all cases. They'll go into felony case. The clerk of court's duties includes docketing, indexing, preserving all court pleadings, civil, felony, criminal, domestic relations. The court also accounts for all monies collected, issues writs to carry out court orders, including summons, subpoenas, warrants to arrest, and death warrants in capital cases. Look at that. The clerk of court, very powerful. The payments made by the county clerks of court includes garnishments and refunds of deposits. Your office has inquired whether clerk of courts are required to file and furnish payee statements in particular circumstances. We have analyzed these situations under 2 potentially applicable reporting provisions. We stress that the analysis discussed here does not apply to any other factual scenario. That means no other scenario, you can't make this be cross looked at every other position. Just the clerk of court. Is specifically talking about the county clerks of court. Now I'm going to scroll down to this last one right here because I went through this other part and when we get all the way down to our conclusion, but I want you all to look through this in your due time. We're going to jump right into our next part where the clerk is getting access to your federal funds. All right, here we go. So I like this. It says you inquire whether the clerk of court involvement in a foreclosure action impose a reporting obligation on the clerk for the foreclosure amount. We agree that a county clerk is not required to issue Form 1099-S proceeds from real estate transactions on foreclosure real estate transactions. The acquisition of U.S. property by foreclosure must be reported by the what? The lender who held the property as security for a loan to a non-exempt borrower on Form 1099-A, acquisition or abandonment of secured property. So there we go. There's that 1099-A. They mentioned that. The clerk does not deal with the 1099-A. That's for us to make sure that's reported to whoever's the lender is supposed to report that to the borrower. I think that's it. That's where it goes into the foreclosures. And they go through each action point, but I didn't want to go through details of reading this whole article. I wanted to skip through to show you where it shows the clerk of court being mentioned by name by the IRS in the 1099s. And they were asking some pretty hard questions. Whoever asked freedom of information of this knowledge, this answer came back from an attorney that was representing the clerk of court that works directly with the treasury. So let me go to a one that's right here. That is a really good question they asked. It says, under the Treasury Regulation 1.6041, 1A and C, a payer generally is not required to make a return under Section 6041 for payments that are not included in a recipient's income, nor is a payer required to make a return if the payer does not have a basis to determine the amount of a payment that is required to be included in the recipient's gross income. The Supreme Court has defined income as, right here goes the income. So all of y'all who keep saying y'all got income, they have this, the Supreme Court has already agreed what income is, but a lot of y'all keep saying you have income. So let's go and see what the Supreme Court says income is. The Supreme Court has defined income as undeniable accessions to wealth, clearly realized and over which the taxpayers have complete dominion. So that means that you know that even though all your bills are paid, all your debts, and you know you still got like $100,000 still sitting somewhere. That means all your stuff is paid, everything's paid, right? You don't owe nothing. Then you can prove you got income. But as long as you owe something, don't say you got income, you know you owe. You still owe something, right? We still got something on the credit report that's proving that you owe, right? So you can't say you got income if we know for a fact that if we cross-examine you and say these people are very good, they'll let you go through this. They'll let you go through all the process and they will respond to every single line, right? So if y'all keep saying you got income and you don't have no expenses showing, then that's a problem. This is why we have people to go through our private banking course, because if you can't prove you have expenses, then how are you proving you got income? So this is right here from the Supreme Court. I'm showing you where the answer is coming from. Let me go to your source. It says the commissioner versus Glenshaw Glass Company. So they did that back in 1955. They never had to do a case like that ever again. A deposit made in return to a taxpayer generally does not constitute an accession to wealth. All right, so the IRS provides that income recovered during the taxable year is excluded from the gross income that a year as long as the amount of recovery did not reduce prior federal income taxes. That is, the taxpayer did not a deduction for the deposit amount. All right, so basically you're seeing that even here, the county clerk, and I'm skipping down to 12, here the county clerk of the court does not have the information whether the taxpayer who made the deposit took a deduction and received the tax benefit for the amount deposited. So that means the county clerk doesn't know how much money got deposited inside your account, in your bank accounts. So that's up to you. You have to find out how much that happened was. Accordingly, a county clerk of the court is not required to issue Form 1099 to attorneys who are refunded, right here, their client's money at the end of a case. That's right. So yes, these attorneys are able to collect and cash out on all those cases, you all, because we're not closing out the case, because we're not filing our taxes. So every case that you've ever thought of, every case that's ever been dealt with, the taxes were supposed to be filed based upon, according to this right here, that we're finding out today, that case, right? So that's on the docket that the court or the county clerk has put on the record. Let's go into some of the information. I'm going to go into the Treasury Offset Program. That's going to get right into our announcement board, and I'll use that as our conclusion and review. So the Treasury Offset Program, if you all never heard of that before, this is how they're able to offset your refund, offset your money, garnish your paychecks, do anything they need to do to make sure that's going to go through. So you can see right here, the Treasury Offset Program is a centralized debt collection program developed by the Bureau of Fiscal Service designed to collect past due debts owed to federal agencies and states, including overdue child support payments. So they're even going as far as child support is even then being taken by the Treasury Offset Program as well. So we got, even if you work a state job or if you work a federal job, if you owe the federal government, they are able to take money out your paycheck. And they tell you what the percentage is, depends on what you have coming in. So let's say even if you're on SSI or even if you disabled, they tell you how much they can take out. If it's a tax return, they say it's 100%. So let's go to this right here and see how they're able to keep collecting on the money that's sitting in your account. The past due account information is reported to the Department of Treasury on accounts receiving no payments within 62 days of the initial debt notification. Under the Treasury Offset Program, TOP, federal income tax refunds, federal salaries, and other payments from government agencies are automatically applied to past due accounts to offset or pay the debt owed. Okay, so this is going, even if you work a federal job, they are still able to take those payments out your federal paycheck. All right, so it's very important that we see this even if you're working a federal job. Why we want to be more non-commercial, why we want to be more living off of the trust. So they're able to apply that, and this is called the administrative offset. So that's what this is called. The administrative offset is what they're calling it. Legally, administrative offset is authorized from payments due to an individual from federal income tax refunds. They say 100% of the remaining balance of the debt. Office of Personal Management, annuity payments, 25% of the disposable pay, which is the amount after your pay, after deductions required by law subtracted. The Social Security Administration payments. So that means if you're getting money from the Social Security Administration office, they're going to take the 15% of disposable pay. So the 15% of your disposable pay is even coming out of your Social Security office. Your federal salary offset. So that means all your salary you made for your federal, they're going to take 15% of that disposable pay. So whatever you take home, they're going to take 15% of that, what you take home. So this is explaining to you all where this is coming, where the clerk has all power over your account, where you can get right, they can get right to your account through the social, and they can offset those monies. So you all thought this was coming from the IRS. The IRS is not doing this to you. This is who's doing this to you. The clerk. The clerk is basically taking you to basically file a lien on your account. And you can see they're able to send those official notices and summons and say, hey, you owe, this is what you owe. So this will be garnished from your paycheck, notice of garnishment. So that's it for today on what we have so far for the clerk and how much power the clerk has. And I want to get into more of the commercial, but let me get into our announcement so I can show you all a little bit more of the commercial code and how we can jump right into the UCC. See if it allows me to share the screen over here. Do we have any questions, comments, or shares so far based upon what we saw today dealing with the clerk of court? All right, bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and share this screen for our announcement board. Okay, 1 second. All right, there we go. Hold on a second. Okay, then we're good now, right? Should be able to see the screen. So our title was Revocable Living Trust Used to Manage All Digital Assets with Clerks of Court. So as you can see, I went over my presentment earlier today to prove to you how powerful the clerks of courts are and how they're in management of a lot of your assets, a lot of your documents, a lot of your stuff. So I continue the topic about the digitization of all assets through clerks of court, including how full communication is directly managed by the clerk's orders. So we're thinking those orders are coming from the judge, but realistically, the judge just signs the order. And I think what happens is the attorneys actually prepare the order for the judge to sign, and then the clerk finishes and executes the order. So it is the clerk's bidding that's happening, where we're seeing a lot of these things happening. This is happening through the clerk's hands. So a lot of the powerful processes that we need to start thinking about is making sure that the clerk is reviewing the documents carefully before they sign, as well as the judge. So the clerk and the judge, or the chief judge, they are your key players that we learned today. So the management of digital assets, revolving real estate, and all banking assets. So all your banking assets and all of your real estate is still under the key management, as I just proved to you all today, of the clerk. Because the clerk can garnish your paycheck. The clerk can take money right out your bank account. The clerk can freeze your account. So the clerk has a lot of power that can have orders that go through, and they're able to revolve around your real estate and your banking assets. So this goes into the management of digital assets that they're using already. But until we place them into our decentralized, as I went over last week or the week before, we talked about your decentralized digital assets, which we break down as digital assets today. Then this goes to the introduction to the UCC, or the Uniform Commercial Code, which is a new form of technology that's being used. And this is how you're able to be in the banking system or in the banking world without the clerk. Because the clerk usually deals with the county record, and the clerk does usually deal directly with the U.S. Treasury. But the UCC is also another layer that we're going to be introducing, how you can manage and maintain all of your digital documents. So the Uniform Commercial Code is new to our minds, but we're going to start thinking of how you can tap into that knowledge as well. Every state has the UCC, which we see as something that is securing all of the collateral. So I won't go into much of that today, since we're at a short amount of time. We're going to go through all the rest of our points that we have that's listed here. So learn how to create land trust and a wallet address. We talked about that. You want to create a land trust so that your land trust is connected to your revocable trust. And then you also have a wallet address where you can avoid having to keep things in what we call the cash out process that the IRS, or the Internal Revenue Service, has jurisdiction. So if you put in a wallet address, or you have your assets, your digital address and digital assets in a wallet, then this will take you outside of that commercial jurisdiction. You'll become non-commercial at that point. So it's two things you need, is a land trust and a wallet. Once you have that, then you will be able to secure, which we said earlier, is your real estate. Because you can see the clerk has all power of signing a document to make orders or decisions on your real estate. It says, learn how to pay for any services or products with digital assets. You have to learn how to pay for your services or your products. Once you learn how to pay for those things, that way it's a lot easier for you, instead of you cashing out all the time. Because what if you can't cash out? What if as soon as you cash out, your bank account is frozen, or they're going to take your, it's going to be a treasury offset program, right? So this is why we went last week of how you need to live without the bank. Because if you put all of your eggs in one basket, which is, let's say, the eggs in one basket, or the basket is the bank, then what happens if it's basically being garnished? That means all your assets are garnished now, right? So we teach, or we instruct people to learn how to live without the bank. It's very important. We don't want you to have $20,000, $30,000 just sitting on your debit card. We don't want you to have this money just sitting on the bank. All right. Even the savings account, it can become a problem over time if you leave it in savings. Yeah, you can save yourself, but you got to basically move it out of that eventually as well. And we said that the layer to that is, you know, making sure you at least have a secured credit card, right? So if you don't have the secured credit card, then you want to go ahead and get that savings account and convert that into a post office money order. That's pretty much your only two ways out. And the third way would be the digital wallet that we spoke about, where you can learn how to pay for your services with your digital assets. All right, your next point is you're going to learn how to avoid cashing out back to the world corporations. You see, because look, if you all choose to do it anyway, let's say you cash out anyway, well, guess what? You're right back in the same place you started. Welcome back to the commerce. That's all they're going to say. Please please visit your nearest tax collector's office. I'm not under your jurisdiction. I'm not under your jurisdiction. Yes, you are. You're under our jurisdiction because you have decided to cash back out to us. Right. So when we get into this not in your jurisdiction race, where you have the trust document and you just hold it in your hand, documents ain't got no power no more, even if you choose to show them, and you're still going backwards. So we got to be careful to think that the document has the power as you. You have the power to not go back. So there may be people around us that keep going back, they keep cashing out. That's fine, as long as you don't do it. So learn how to avoid cashing out back to the world corporations. And we went over that as many times as it looks in multiple ways. Right. So this is key point to how the layers of your assets are managed. Our next point we have is you're going to learn how to connect trust funds without an EIN. Right? You're going to learn how to connect trust funds without an EIN, an employer identification number, or the IRS, or the IMF, or any bank. Right? So we never said that you need the IRS. We just said you need to use the IRS. And I already showed you all in the beginning how I use the IRS and how it worked for me and how I don't work for it. So I started off in the beginning with the treasury check, right? I didn't jump right to the bank, because what can the bank do for me? It's take all my money. So I know that everyone really want to grab all this money from these banks. But I'm explaining to you, if you choose to go that route, you're right back in their jurisdiction. Right? You know, you're right back in their jurisdiction. So your goal is to learn how to live without the EIN, without the IRS, without the IMF. Now, that's even a mind thing, because wait, what am I going to do? I have the EIN already. That's fine. You have the EIN, but it's just part of like how you just have your social security card. You just have it, right? So you want to use it. You want to access the things that you can get from that as a benefit. That's how you utilize all those documents. The next bullet point we see, and this is the last one for this week, and we'll go into our Q&A sessions and see if anybody have any questions. I'll go through a few more diagrams. Is you're going to learn to live without the United States corporation banking system. So that's a very hard one that we've been running into. We didn't know it was going to be, or it's going to take as long as it has, or it's doing right now. But we're going to hopefully attempt to do this with your UCC. So with the UCC, we'll be able to show you how you can do this without the bank. You should have like every bank account you have should have like $1 in it. You shouldn't have no money just sitting inside the bank account. That's really what we're saying. So when we say learn how to live without the bank, what we're saying is learn how to not leave all your money just sitting inside the bank account. There is even other methods you all can do, which is paying it forward. They call it pay forward, pay it forward. So if you know you got to pay rent, just pay 3 months ahead of rent. Why you just have money sitting in the bank? If you know you got to pay utility bill, pay your utility bill ahead. Why you just got the money sitting in the bank? There's no such thing as a great savings, they always tell us. That those days are over. We're no longer in the time where my parents were making $35,000 a year. And that was enough for them to buy groceries, buy a car, and buy a house. We're not in those times. So we can't say I'm out here saving money for a rainy day. All right, so there is no great savings. So that is the key point of why the bank keeps taking all y'all money. And then you're not even claiming it because the bank is just looking at it like, hey, we're going to go ahead and claim all these funds that you got in here. And we're going to see if we can get a refund because they're looking at it like, hey, you haven't done it. So this is key points that I wanted to go over today as to pick our brain to show us where we are with the clerk, where we are with our tax collector, where we are with our Social Security Administration office, right? Because this is where we see all the money is. This is where all the money's at. Now, everywhere you go, everyone is asking about how they can get access to some money. So you don't want to go through all these credit programs, which they try to work on your credit report, because we already know that that's already connected to your social. So they're running game on us. They're making you think that, I mean, you have to even apply for yourself. Does that make sense? Why am I applying for myself? Why am I applying for something that I should already have access to? So that's the Social Security Administration. And we have went over different things in the past that show how you want to convert from being the individual side of this and you go into the business. Let me go to that diagram for you all real quick. And that's the IRS.gov. You move from the individual side to the business. And that's right here on their website. They tell you individuals and the businesses. So with your social card, we say, and we went over this earlier this year as a review, that your goal is to go ahead and get your expenses deducted. Deduct all your expenses and move your business into a sole proprietorship, which is yourself. So out of all businesses, we didn't tell you to choose any of these other corporations. Don't choose partnership. Don't choose international business. The foreign trust, right? The foreign 9(8)s. These are international businesses as far as the IRS is seeing it. The corporation, the S Corp, the LLCs, use the sole proprietorship. Because a sole proprietorship is someone who owns an unincorporated business. So it's right there. It's not what I said. This is what the IRS says it is. And you do this by yourselves. So someone who owns an unincorporated business by themselves is a sole proprietorship. And with that sole proprietorship, that's your social, remember? Deduct all the expenses. Deduct all the expenses. Now, they give you all the breakdowns. I'm not going to go through all this at this moment, but you can see where I'm getting this knowledge and this information from. I'm showing you right where it's coming from. No, they give you the publication. Look, boom, it says business expenses. So I'm not making this up. Publication 535 tells you business expenses. Look, rent expense. That's the first thing that I saw on chapter 3 that I was on. Let me scroll in for some of y'all. So y'all be thinking that I'm not saying that you're supposed to do your rent. I don't care if you stay in an apartment. I don't care if you stay in an apartment. Doesn't matter if you got a room and you renting out somebody's room. You're supposed to have a rent expense, or at least need to create one. That's why we feel like we're not doing business. We're just sitting around because it's not the documents that's working. It's us working the documents. We have to work these things. A lot of us ain't taking it serious. We got people around us that's just working. So all you're doing is working, 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 but you're not deducting your expenses. So like I say, I wish I could make this stuff up, but I am coming straight from the source. And I'm just making that up. As I'm saying, I wish I could make it up. I'm not wishing I could make up anything, but I'm showing you this is the truth. This is where this is all coming from. You got other expenses. You got bad debts that you had out here, some losses you had out here, other expenses, insurance. When we talked about insurance, right? So I'm just going into a little bit. I want you all to do your due diligence when you see this knowledge and you see that it's getting you through the social. The social is the route that you're supposed to use. Use the social security card. All right, so I just explained to you all the difference between the individual side. So the individual side is going to make you go through all these different steps, which are totally different, which is nowhere near the business side. And they're going to show you how to file your taxes, how you're going to be dealing with all these different individual perspectives of the social. The business side is only going to give you the business perspective of the social. So I'm saying the same thing, but I'm using the social. I'm not using an EIN, just for those who thought that you get the sole proprietor EIN. We never advise you to get the sole proprietor EIN. We say use your social security card, this right here. We say use this. This is your sole proprietor right here. Right, this is the same thing. This is the sole proprietor, the social security card. So there is no new EIN that you grab that people are advising you all to do. You don't need to go grab a new EIN. Just use your social. And from there, this is how all this is going to open up for you all. So I think this is it for this part. I think I can find one more where it says the taxes. Let's see, business. Prepare your taxes. I don't see it. I don't see where it's at. I thought it said I was going to go into the Schedule C, but it doesn't show it right now. But yeah, that's pretty much where we are. That's the end of what I have so far for today. I didn't want to go too much into extenuating topics because, like I say, next week we're going to get right into the UCC, which is the Uniform Commercial Code. But before anything else, does anybody have any comments, questions, or shares on any of the information that we went over tonight, just to make sure that you fully feel confident that you have most of all of these things that we talked about today? A lot of it is just remembering the terms and the positions that these people have. And the main two people that I just gave you today is the clerk of court and the tax collector. You know, the tax collector is how you get your card, the ID card, and the clerk of court is pretty much where you end up placing your revocable trust on the record. And I showed that earlier today too, the revocable trust on the record through the clerk of court. That's the Uniform Commercial Code. All right, so we're going to go into this a little bit next week. Uniform Commercial Code, as you can see, the Uniform Commercial Code is talking about all of your provisions of banking. So it says American Law Institute, a national conference of commissioners on uniform state laws, reproduced, published, and distributed the permission of permanent editorial board for the Uniform Commercial Code for limited purposes, study, teaching, and academic research. So they're going to show you what the UCC means, what it is, what it does, and we're not going to confuse you. We're going to go through every part that makes sense. I know they try to tell you about instruments and how you take these instruments to the bank and the bank is supposed to cash out these things, but I'm going to show you where this is all showing this information at, and it's not as exactly what you all have been told. Right. So I'm going to show you an instrument. This would be an example of an instrument from earlier that I was explaining. So the instrument that I was going to use as an example would be this instrument. So this would be an instrument or a negotiable instrument. They'll say negotiable instrument. You can use treasury checks as negotiable instruments. That's right here, UCC 3-104. It says it's payable to the bearer or order at the time it is issued or first comes in possession of a holder. It's payable on demand or at a definite time. Does not state or have undertaken instruction by person promising or ordering payment to do any act in payment of the money. For the promise of order may contain undertaking or power to give, maintain, or protect collateral to secure payment, an authorization of power to the holder to confess judgment or realize or dispose of collateral, waiver of benefit of any law intended for the advantage or protection of an obligor. So this is your negotiable instrument. Then they go into details of what those are. They got checks. So you see the first one they have is a check. That's a negotiable instrument. Cashier's check. You have your teller's check. You have your traveler's check. And you have your CD, which is a certificate of deposit, which most people don't usually get into because it's another type of instrument. So those are your main instruments that the UCC covers. All these other things that people are creating, those are called coupons. So we're not here to tell you that those are negotiable instruments. Those are coupons. So I was going to show you where that's coming from, where people get into maybe you write on the coupon and you take it to the bank and then you get access to cash. Let me show you where that shows. That's going to be 18 United States Code 8. So those are obligations of the United States. They're supposed to go ahead and deposit that for you, and you're supposed to get cash through that, I guess. So that would be the easiest way to think of that. So the obligation of security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, and coupons. Here we go. So this is what everybody's talking about, the tear-off coupon. That is an obligation of the United States. So the United States is obligated to take care of those coupons or those bills. And I went over this, and this is my last thing I'll leave you all with. And I went over this as very fast as I possibly can, is Title 31. So that's the 31, United States Code 5118. That's your gold clause that's showing you where the United States is pretty much paying the debt. And it says public debt obligation means a domestic obligation issued or guaranteed by the United States government to repay money or interest. So the United States government is obligated to repay the money or interest of the debt. All right. So they never tell you they're going to give you gold. So they never give you gold, but they will do what it says. A person lawfully holding United States coins and currency may present the coins and currency to the Secretary of Treasury for exchange, dollar for dollar. And that's how they're able to take you into the credit system of the United States, because you're not able to just go out and just pay for things with gold or silver. So I can't just come to you, give you gold and silver and pay for something. This is why the United States government is obligated for almost everything that we're having to pay. So I just want to show you all this. This is all coming from deep study, and you have to definitely make sure that you're able to understand and overstand a lot of this knowledge as you begin to apply it. If it's too good to be true, then it ain't gonna work. So I'm not here to give y'all anything that's too good to be true. Make sure that you match all your numbers and match all your stuff that makes sense. If it don't make sense, and it don't make money. So we're gonna make sure we stick to our basic understanding. And I showed you all an instrument that I had as a treasury check. So that's one of my instruments that I would use. And they also say instrument means negotiable instrument. So I'm going to be specific. UCC says this is what they mean by negotiable instrument. So I close with this. I noticed a lot of information, But I'm thankful for you all to sticking clear with this. It's a lot of information because they have expected us to already know this. And it's our job to basically not enlighten, but to share this knowledge with each other, because they're never going to tell you how to do anything. The court is telling you that they're not obligated. They can't give you legal advice. So don't feel alarmed or don't feel discouraged if you try to go to the court and it looks as if you're getting the runaround. The goal is for you to keep studying until you can feel confident in doing most of the tasks on your own. But that's it for today. Anybody have any last thoughts before we close out? All right, so we